Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I call to order multi-stakeholder plenary 4 entitled Harnessing Strategic Foresight and Innovation to Accelerate Disaster Risk Reduction for Future Generations. Before we start this morning's debate, I would like to make a few brief announcements. This is regarding the field visits. People who have signed up online for a field visit, please come and pick up their badges at the Swiss Innovations booth before 11 a.m. on Friday, which is today. People who are interested in one of the field visits but who have not registered yet, please come to the Swiss Innovation booth from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Friday. The remaining spots will be given away on a first-come, first-served basis. So after that announcement, this morning I'm delighted to welcome you all to this discussion. Let me begin by recognizing two youth leaders, Ms. Eileen Samukashvili and Ms. Mafalda Mendonca, who are joining us in this plenary and will be live populating a word cloud using the contents of the interventions made by all speakers. At the end of this plenary, we will have the benefit of seeing the word cloud in its final form. I thank them for their time and efforts today. I would now like to give the floor to His Excellency, Mr. Christian Frutiger, Vice Director General of the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, to provide opening remarks. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Co-Chair, and good morning, everybody. In an area of increasing uncertainty driven by climate change, urbanization, and evolving global risks, the ability to anticipate, adapt, and act before a disaster strikes is essential. So much is changing that we can no longer rely on what we learned in the past when we make decisions for the future. Strategic foresight helps decision makers think ahead by exploring different possible futures. It is not about predicting what will happen, but about preparing for what could happen and work toward the future we want. It looks at trends, risks, and uncertainties across all areas of society and helps guide long-term decisions. The strength of strategic foresight lies in its ability to bring people together across sectors, disciplines, and political lines, to think creatively about what the future might hold. The midterm review of the Sendai Framework recognized strategic foresight as a key approach through the application of which countries can strengthen the monitoring of systemic risk, encourage long-term and broader systems thinking, and guide sustainability transformations. This plenary provides the opportunity to share good practices and examples of foresight and innovation that accelerates action on DRR now and for future generations. Specifically, we will hear our distinguished participants share, 1, experiences in the use of strategic foresight on critical policy decisions and investments. 2, insights on the areas of disaster risk reduction with the highest potential to rapidly advance through the use of technologies. And 3, views on ways to incentivize and drive innovation in reducing risk. Let us use this opportunity to learn about and explore new technologies and ideas for collaboration in designing resilient futures. Let us now turn to our partners for their valuable perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I would now like to begin our debate. We will be guided by the live list of speakers, which is posted online. and the QR codes available in the room. Let me remind all speakers that statements are limited to 3 minutes, and microphones will be automatically deactivated once that time has elapsed. There is a timer on the screen to assist you in managing your time. I apologize in advance if speakers are cut off, and thank you for your understanding. Full versions of longer statements can be submitted to the Secretariat. I now give the floor to His Excellency Charles E. Fonseca, Minister of Internal Affairs of Seychelles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kamal. In light of my 3 minutes, I would like to use a particular scenario of a landslide disaster in the Seychelles on the 7th of December to highlight the 3 parts of the question. This incident suddenly awoke us to a totally unusual situation with numerous landslides around the country. As we responded to deal with the immediate threats, we knew that we needed a strategy to address this issue in its totality with a long-term view. We needed to understand first what was happening prior to strategizing. It did not take long for our 2 geologists in the country to inform us of the magnitude of the situation. We had to strategize by seeking for expert help to understand the threat and to prioritize our reaction and our interventions to deal with a very unusual situation with us. 3 things came straight to our thinking. Was we lacked the capacity, which needed a lot of technical know-how and use of technology. Use of technology for understanding what the threat was. And at the same time, how do we deal with the continued requirement of dealing with other landslide as we go along. So with that, we had to go for expert help to help us with that. We had to train our local team to deal with that in the long term, which we got them proper training in Switzerland, in fact. They came back and now they are dealing with this issue. And this, in addition, also help us to insensitize the local population and the team to be able to understand that they have a long-term task ahead. It has been proven by the experts that this is a job that will take about 20 years to finish with the intensity of this new threat in the country. So these 3 areas was important to address, and luckily we had the early warning for all program, which allowed us to use some of the tools available on that to help us with our forecasting and landslide mitigation know-how. So all in all, this was a good situation.
Thank you very much, Minister of Internal Affairs of Seychelles. May I now invite His Excellency Gokarna Mani Duwadi, Home Secretary of Nepal.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I feel honored to speak at this multi-stakeholder plenary on behalf of the Government of Nepal. My sincere gratitude goes to the UNDRR and the host country Switzerland for convening governments and stakeholders from around the world here in Geneva. Nepal is one of the most disaster-prone countries. We face frequent disaster risks due to seismic and weather events, and often intensified by the impact of climate change. Recent high-altitude hydrometeorological events, including melting glaciers and permafrost, landslides and floods, exemplify the cascading nature of climate-induced hazards in Nepal. The government of Nepal is prioritizing strategic foresight, policy innovation, and the adoption of digital solutions to address the evolving challenges. We established National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Authority in 2019, which marked a significant step in institutionalizing disaster risk governance at all levels of government. In alignment with the Green Resilient and Inclusive Development Grid initiative, Nepal's 16th periodic plan, entitled Happy and Prosperous Nepal, incorporates risk-informed national development planning through frameworks such as the disaster-sensitive social protection and relief standards and the local disaster and climate resilience framework. Nepal is advancing disaster resilience in 4 key domains: multi-hazard risk assessment, participatory community-based approaches, integrated policy innovations, and the deployment of advanced technologies. Our disaster risk management strategy includes the use of modern technology, including artificial intelligence, to strengthen early warning systems, real-time data analytics, and the expansion of risk communication through digital platforms, SMS, and social media. We pay special attention to the needs of women, children, the elderly persons with disabilities, marginalized populations, and remote communities, in order to ensure that the technological solutions are relevant and informed by indigenous knowledge. The 2023 midterm review of the Sendai Framework emphasized the growing urgency of addressing systemic risks and bridging the digital divide. To this end, we are committed to incorporating indigenous knowledge into disaster risk planning and fostering culturally appropriate and locally led solutions to strengthen community resilience. Nepal reaffirms its steadfast commitment to harnessing innovation to build a safer, more resilient future for all and generations come. Let us move forward together to achieve the targets of the Sendai Framework by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you, Home Secretary of Nepal. May I now invite His Excellency Roman Kurinin, Deputy Minister of Russian Federation.
Уважаемые коллеги, дамы и господа.
Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, today's meeting confirms our common understanding that we are living in an era of increasing risks that require a systemic and long-term approach. For the Russian Federation, strategic forecasting and planning has become an integral part of government policy in disaster risk reduction and public safety. This is a strategy. Russia is implementing a strategy in the field of civil defense, protection of the population and territories from the emergency situations, and fire safety and safety of people on water bodies. This is a strategic document aimed at creating a sustainable security system, taking into account modern threats of a natural and man-made nature. The strategy implementation plan includes development of emergency monitoring, improvement of the regulatory framework, improving the sustainability of infrastructure, development of modern means of preparing and educating all categories of population. Scientific and technological development is crucial. In 2024, an updated version of the plan was adopted, the strategy of scientific and technological development of the Russian Federation, that's the name of the strategy, that highlights the prevention of natural, man-made and biogenic threats and hazards. We consider research as a basis for scenario analysis. First of all, it is the digitalization of system of early warning. We're expanding the channels for communicating information to the public. The Ministry of Emergency Situations of Russia is using a special mobile application. This is vital because timely notification saves lives and timely warning saves lives. Another example is the Data Lake platform. It's a centralized digital platform that combines information resources of the national DRR platform. This lake is a core of artificial intelligence and a big data set processing tool that provides operational analytics for management decision-making. Another successful development is the Thermal Points mobile application, which uses airspace technology and neural network models for early detection of wildfire threats. We are confident that only by combining the efforts of the research community, business and government authorities, we will be able to ensure reliable protection for fewer generations. Russian Federation is open to dialogue with partners within the framework of bilateral and multilateral initiatives, exchange of best practices and joint scientific developments in disaster risk reduction. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister of Russian Federation. May I now invite His Excellency Nesubu Yasin Said, Deputy Commissioner of the Ethiopian Disaster Risk Management Commission.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, I wish to extend my deep appreciation to the UNDRR and the government of Switzerland for organizing and hosting this gathering. Ethiopia reaffirms its commitment to translating the global agenda and African common position, including the midterm review declaration, Pact of the Future, Global Digital Impact Compact, and Declaration on Future Generations. Ethiopia's commitment to long-term resilience is exemplified by its increasing application of strategic foresight, a future-oriented approach to governance and planning, including development and resilience goals, long-term low emission and climate resilience development strategy to safeguard the well-being of future generations. Ethiopia's disaster risk management policy, endorsed and operationalized in line with national priorities and global frameworks, incorporates the multi-hazard warning and early action roadmap that reflects core principles of anticipating future climate-induced hazards, enabling scenario-based planning, and providing a curative menu of technology options adaptable to diverse local contexts. In addition, the Digital Ethiopian Strategy serves as a cornerstone for national foresight, laying the foundation for the integration of artificial intelligence across the multiple sectors. The initialization of artificial intelligence through policy framework enables Ethiopian maximizing the technology advantage for resilience and sustainable development. The policy sets a future-ready, ethical, and inclusive framework for deploying AI to improve governance, economic growth, and societal well-being, with a strong emphasis on safeguarding the future of vulnerable populations. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, Ethiopia sees significant opportunities in applying emerging technologies, particularly artificial intelligence, to accelerate progress across the Sendai Framework, leveraging key sectors to address systemic risks and development challenges. I wish to highlight 3 priorities in this area. First, risk understanding and forecasting, including weather forecasting tools, AI-powered risk maps, Earth observation system, and health risk detection systems. Second, multi-hazard warning systems, which include customization and dissemination of alerts based on hazard type, geographic, and preferred language. Third, resilience agriculture and food system, such as satellites imagery, remote sensing, and predictive modeling to forecast droughts and crop yields with greater precision. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, to accelerate AI and tech-driven innovation in DRR, Ethiopia has identified
Thank you very much, Deputy Commissioner of Ethiopia. Now, may I invite His Excellency Velenkosini Hlabisa, Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs of South Africa.
Co-chairpersons, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to address this timely and critical plenary on behalf of the Republic of South Africa. We are gathered at a moment of immense consequence where the choices we make today will determine the resilience and well-being of generations to come. The theme before us is not just aspirational, it is an imperative. The accelerating pace and complexity of risk from climate change to technological hazards demands a shift from reactive crisis management to proactive, future-focused planning. During our G20 presidency, South Africa is committed to placing DRR at the heart of sustainable development and multilateral cooperation. Our priorities are aligned with the Sendai Framework and reflect the urgent need to integrate foresight, innovation, and inclusion into DRR policy and practice. We believe that strategic foresight, when combined with innovation and indigenous knowledge, can help us anticipate, adapt, and act decisively. This includes scenario planning, horizon scanning, and investing in early warning systems that reach everyone, especially the most vulnerable. Innovation is not just about technology, it is about new ways of thinking and working together. We need bold partnerships that span governments, the private sector, academia, youth, and local communities. In South Africa, we are piloting community-based resilience hubs and leveraging digital platforms to enable access to risk information. We are also investing in youth-led innovation, recognizing that the creativity and leadership of young people are critical to building better for the future. As Minister responsible for DRR, I firmly believe that resilience must be localized, gender responsive, and future-oriented. We must ask ourselves, are we creating systems today that will protect our children tomorrow? The answer should be yes. In closing, let us commit to transcending short-termism. Let us co-create a future where foresight and innovation are embedded in every DRR effort. Let us ensure that no one is left behind, not now and not in future. South Africa stands ready to work with all partners to realize this vision. The decision we make today in Geneva will act across generations. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister from South Africa. May I now invite His Excellency Jesus S. Domingo, Undersecretary from the Philippines.
Thank you. Excellencies, colleagues, and partners, the Philippines approaches disaster risk reduction and climate action with the clear recognition that the risks of tomorrow cannot be addressed with the tools of yesterday. We know this because we have lived it. We are one of the most disaster-prone countries in the world, sitting squarely in the Pacific Ring of Fire and the Typhoon Belt. And yet, despite this, we do our best to continue to build toward smarter. In the Philippines, we are acutely aware that risk is not static. As a country shaped by tectonic, climatic, and human-induced hazards, we have also learned that the future cannot be forecast by simply extending the past. Strategic foresight and innovation are not luxuries for us. They are imperatives for survival. In the absence of a singular national framework for climate-smart infrastructure, we have strategically embedded climate and risk considerations into our development planning through our National Climate Change Action Plan 2011 to 2028 and disaster resilient investment policies. These policies stress ecosystem-based adaptation, water governance, food security, and climate-smart communities. We are also working towards completing our National Adaptation Plan, which will further guide strategic investments in resilient infrastructure and systems. But strategy alone is not enough. Innovation and foresight has been indispensable in anticipating what our communities will face in 5, 10, or even 50 years. We are currently applying multi-hazard impact-based forecasting supported by the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical Astronomical Service Administration and tapping into AI-enhanced disaster risk data analytics through our Department of Science and Technology. We have also enacted the Philippine DRM Act and its forthcoming amendments, aiming to institutionalize risk governance at all levels. We see the greatest potential for emerging technologies in 3 key areas: anticipatory early warning systems for multi-hazard threats, 2, integrating climate and disaster risk data into local government planning through digital risk atlases, and 3, investing in green, blue, and gray infrastructure that balances engineered and ecosystems-based solutions. To catalyze innovation further, we believe 3 enablers are essential. First, open access to risk data and research, especially at the local level. Second, partnership with academic and private sector actors to drive demand-based technological development. And third, financing models that reward prevention, not just response, especially those that are accessible to local governments and communities. The Philippines is prepared to share what we know in solidarity and in the spirit of genuine cooperation. We urge this community to embrace foresight not only as a tool, but as a duty to the generations to come. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary Philippines. May I now invite the distinguished representative from International Telecommunication Union.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is my pleasure to address you at this session as we take stock of the Sendai Framework implementation and discuss how to further reduce the disaster risk. At the International Telecommunication, working in our 194 member states with our partners from industry and private sector, amounting to over 1,000 members, we use technology in a human-centric way to ensure that we address the needs of the populations in managing and mitigating risk disasters. This is the vision behind the Early Warnings for All initiative, which we are proud to spearhead alongside our partners, UNDRR, WMO, and IFRC. The initiative represents a global commitment to ensure every person on Earth is protected by timely, actionable, and accessible early warnings. And it is a perfect example of strategic foresight in action. ITU leads work on the dissemination and communication of warnings to ensure messages reach those at risk in time, through the right channels, and in a language and format they understand. This requires investing in public warning systems like cell broadcasting, expanding early warning coverage, and applying universal standards like the Common Alerting Protocol. We also see enormous potential in emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, and as you already know, ITU has adopted about 100 standards pertaining to AI, and governance and ethics remain a challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, many people still lack the basic digital services to receive early warnings. To this extent, I wish to highlight 3 priorities. We must close the digital gaps to enable warnings reach everyone. We must foster inclusive partnerships with the governments, private sector, and local communities. And we must prioritize digital literacy, especially among the youth, women, and marginalized groups. At ITU, we firmly embrace the theme of this forum, Every Day Counts, Act for Resilience Today. We remain committed to working with all of you to harness innovation, scale up early warning systems, and build a secure and inclusive future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative from International Telecommunication Union. May I now invite the distinguished representative from Singapore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies and distinguished delegates, Singapore expresses our appreciation to the Government of Switzerland and the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction for convening the 8th session of the Global Platform on Disaster Risk Reduction. As we continue to witness increasing frequency and intensity of disasters globally, it is critical for us to reaffirm our collective commitment to disaster risk reduction. Aligned with the 2024 UN Declaration on Future Generations, Singapore proactively adopts innovative approaches towards disaster risk reduction, as we believe our decisions and actions today will create ripple effects across generations, thereby securing our resilience for the future. As a small city-state with limited natural resources and land constraints, Singapore has always needed to think ahead, innovate, and plan for multiple scenarios. Just as we address the challenge of water scarcity by investing in desalination technologies to secure our water supply, we are now applying the same forward-looking principles to strengthen our disaster risk reduction strategies. With 30% of our land less than 5 meters above mean sea level, our key challenges are addressing the increased risk of more frequent and intense storms. and rising sea levels. In 2021, Singapore had commenced the development of coastal inland flood model as part of our coastal protection efforts. The government inland flood model is a technological tool using artificial intelligence and machine learning to improve our forecasting abilities under multiple scenarios. The strength of this model lies in its innovative and dynamic scenario planning capabilities, which can be continually updated and improved with new climate science data. Furthermore, its advanced quantification enables informed decision-making about infrastructure investments and adaptation measures. This initiative illustrates how technological advancement and innovation can strengthen the two key priorities of the Sendai Framework, which is understanding disaster risk and disaster risk governance. Singapore recognizes the urgent need to strengthen our efforts in building disaster resilience, and we remain steadfast in our commitment to exploring innovative solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative from Singapore. May I now invite the distinguished representative from Pakistan to deliver their statement.
Thank you. Honorable Co-Chairs, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of people and Government of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, I extend our appreciation to UNDRR and Government of Switzerland for convening this vital global platform. As we enter the final phase of Sendai Framework, the urgency for bold innovation and strategic course correction cannot be overstated as highlighted in midterm review. Pakistan is among the most climate vulnerable countries globally, facing complex and compounding hazards including floods, droughts, heat waves, and glacial lake outbursts. Despite contributing minimally to global emissions, we bear disproportionate impacts. In response, Pakistan has embraced strategic foresight as a core principle of national risk governance. A key example is the operationalization of the AI-driven National Emergencies Operations Center, a centralized hub which integrates satellite data, anomaly detection, and climate intelligence to produce a national common operating picture, enabling long lead disaster projections and evidence-based response planning. This is not just technological progress, but a governance reform. To implement the Sendai Framework more effectively, Pakistan is advancing 4 priority areas where innovation acts as a force multiplier that includes data-driven risk assessments, inclusive early warning systems, smart infrastructure audits, and district to multi-country regional level combined integrated simulation exercises. To enable these innovations, Pakistan prioritizes following actions: institutionalizing foresight into planning and budgeting as embedded in our new National DRR Strategy 2025-2030, expanding digital capacity by replicating National Emergencies Operations Center capabilities at provincial and district level, developing a national disaster risk financing policy to mobilize climate and risk financing for early action, and community-led solutions, including anticipatory action protocols and micro-insurance pilots. We are also fostering ecosystems of innovation through partnerships, engaging in joint infrastructure audits, anticipatory logistics planning, digital risk governance. NDMA is actively pursuing access to global climate finance windows for scalable, high-impact DRR investments. Excellencies, Pakistan is committed to translating foresight into action. As we advance towards the 2030 targets, let us work together to deliver a legacy of resilience, inclusion, and shared responsibility for generations to come. I thank you.
Thank you, distinguished representative from Pakistan. May I now invite the distinguished representative of Kenya to deliver their statement.
Excellencies, distinguished co-chairs, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all. I'm pleased to join you at this multi-stakeholder plenary. Kenya commends the government of Switzerland and the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction for convening this session and for placing innovation and strategic foresight at the heart of global platform agenda. At the moment when the world is facing many disasters, which are happening too frequently and at times concurrently, strategic foresight and innovation becomes a fundamental imperative for prevention, to save lives and property and to mitigate the impact of disasters. To safeguard future generations, we must move from reactive approaches to anticipatory risk management. Kenya has begun integrating foresight tools into national planning for better anticipate climate and disaster risk, especially for rapidly urbanizing and ecologically sensitive regions in our country. Most recently, on 21st May, Kenya had a national launch of early warnings for all initiatives, which seek to tailor the United Nations early warnings for all initiatives to the risk profile and needs of our country. This step will also bring together key stakeholders to develop an implementation roadmap geared at expanding the coverage and effectiveness of multi-hazard early warning systems. As a testament to the Republic of Kenya's commitment to early warnings, His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto serves as the champion for early warning for all initiative in Africa, a role designated upon him during the Africa Climate Summit held in 2023. Kenya is also honored to host IGAR Climate Prediction and Application Center in Nairobi. Kenya is leveraging innovation such as climate-smart early warning systems, mobile-based community alerts, and geospatial risk mapping to inform preparedness and reduce exposure to hazards. Our strategy prioritizes youth engagement, local knowledge, and inclusive technologies to ensure DRR efforts are people-centered and future-proof. In line with this, Kenya calls for increased collaboration and partnership among all relevant stakeholders in order to ensure access to technology, foresight capabilities, and innovation financing to close risk for resilient gap. Kenya remains fully committed to advancing innovation, forward-looking, and inclusive DRR solutions. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, distinguished representative from Kenya. May I now invite the distinguished representative from Mongolia.
Honorable Chair and distinguished excellencies, very warm greetings from the people of Mongolia. Country of Mongolia has unique land location in Asia region due to its vast territory. We suffer from slow onset disasters like drought, flood, and heavy flooding. Wildfires, which are climate change attributable disasters. In last 70 years of time, average annual temperature was increased by 2.1 degrees Celsius, which causes 70% of the land heavily degraded. For slow onset disasters such as drought and flood, we prioritize risk assessment and evidence-based data analysis in projecting risks of these disasters and ensuring preparedness through AI intelligence in scenario prediction. Innovation should be introduced to DRR activities, but should be strongly implemented in close alliance with private sector. State, regional governments should support PPP in order for applying the innovations in practical operations. We harness financial tools and creating incentives for private sector, and private sectors are exempted of 1% of taxes in composition of their investments made in DRR. We also use AI in emergency responses, data analysis in identifying vulnerable groups, and also transferring risk communication and information to the community in general. Mongolia has established Innovation and Technology Policy Committee under the National Platform for DRR, constituting of academia and science organizations. Technology transfer, those who owns good technology and innovation should transfer the technology for risk-prone countries, and especially landlocked countries should be considered. Early warning and AI simulation in risk mapping and risk mitigation and response is crucial, and Mongolia is working on developing AI-based EOC system in emergencies like wildfires and flooding. Climate modeling is crucial in predicting potential hazards. We should also transfer innovations and technologies of foreign direct investments and private sector for the national DRR actions and policies. Last but not least, Mongolia is a host of AMC DRR 2018, and we reassure our commitment in working to contribute to the DRR action in the region. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative of Mongolia. May I now invite the distinguished representative of United Nations Office for Project Services.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to join this vital discussion today on fostering long-term resilience for future generations through innovative approaches. With the increasing frequency and severity of climate-related disasters, managing risks to our communities has never been more crucial. Investing in resilient infrastructure can save up to 80% of post-disaster reconstruction costs. Given that half of our work is delivered in fragile and conflict-affected situations, UNOPS actively assists partners in their journeys of advancing the Sendai Framework, particularly in early recovery, while strengthening resilience for better preparedness. As a UN organization mandated in implementation with expertise in infrastructure, UNOPS offers both civil works and physical infrastructure development, as well as advisory services and technical assistance. We help partners plan, deliver, and manage infrastructure that is more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive, enabling communities to withstand future shocks. Now, more than ever, we must address how to integrate a risk-informed approach to infrastructure for future generations. Operating in over 80 countries, UNOPS supports national and local actors through infrastructure development. Infrastructure not only drives development, but also protects its achievements. Indeed, infrastructure failure often triggers disasters. When a hazard, either natural or man-made, causes severe destruction, rather than simply assessing damage, we must ask ourselves critical questions. Why did this happen? Could we have anticipated this? What could have lessened the severity? What lessons can we learn for the future? These questions form the foundation for building back better. The complexity escalates in conflict-affected areas. Explosive ordnance can shift after events like floods, creating new risks, hindering recovery efforts due to time-consuming manual risk analysis. As demonstrated at this week's innovation platform, UNOPS is leveraging AI and satellite imagery to rapidly analyze explosive risks, building collapse potential, and identifying critical infrastructure in densely populated areas like Gaza and Syria. In Ukraine, in the aftermath of the Zaporizhzhia destruction of the dam, UNOPS produced detailed mapping of the dam's impact, associated flooding, and the displacement of landmines that have been placed around the dam. These same technologies can also be used to run flood simulations, mitigating risks in advance, protecting lives, and assisting decision makers. In preparation for a rapidly changing world, UNOPS internally created dedicated missions to foster knowledge exchange across the globe in order to accelerate our impact towards achievement of the SDGs. By envisaging potential global scenarios and applying strategic foresight principles, we strive to scope how UNOPS can best contribute to enhancing resilience. UNOPS remains committed to enhancing national and local capacity to mitigate risks and build lasting resilience for generations to come.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative from UNOPS. May I now invite the distinguished representative from Kazakhstan.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Ministry of Environment of Kazakhstan, I'd like to welcome you to this forum, and I would like to thank the organizers of the conference. It's a big honor for me to be here and to share my notes. The Republic of Kazakhstan is experiencing all sorts of natural emergencies, and not only natural disasters, but also technogenic. And we're coping with them using the modern technology and by using the automated systems of mass notification of civilians through the broadcast system, which allows to provide a wide broadcast to the widest layers of population. We have introduced a sophisticated system for earthquake notifications, and we use the modern technologies and artificial intelligence to predict the oncoming disasters. We're also working with the Space and Satellite Technology Agency to model and to predict the management of water resources and modeling the likely places where the water shortages can occur. We're using computer simulation of the water management and flooding, as well as the earthquake, especially near the Almaty, where the military testing range was. Important role is placed on the southern region, where the heavy development of mineral resources was provided in the past. We are monitoring 24/7 the meteorological situation in that region, and in the 2025 we introduced fully the automated system for preventing the flooding dangers in that area. Honored colleagues,
Thank you very much, distinguished representative from Kazakhstan. May I now invite Islamic Relief Bangladesh to deliver their statement. They will join us virtually. There is no sound for the speaker. We cannot hear the speaker. So maybe while we get the technical issues sorted out, may I now invite Disaster Preparedness and Prevention Initiative for Southeastern Europe to deliver their statement.
Thank you. The Disaster Preparedness and Prevention Initiative for Southeastern Europe strongly supports the integration of strategic foresight and innovation as key accelerators of DRR in our region. As a regional intergovernmental initiative, we work with national civil protection authorities to strengthen systematic risk governance, particularly through long-term planning and knowledge sharing. We see three priority areas where innovation and emerging technology can significantly advance DRR. AI-enabled early warning system, particularly in seismic, floods-prone and wildfire risk zones, real-time data collection and risk mapping at the local level to enhance anticipatory response, education and training platforms, including virtual reality tools to build DRR competencies among youth, community and first responders. To drive innovation, we stress the need for sustained public investment in digital infrastructure and in key institutions as hydrometeorological services and DRR research. Policy frameworks that encourage public-private partnership and cross-sectoral collaboration. Inclusive capacity building mechanisms that ensure technology reaches local actors and vulnerable groups. So DPPISC actively promotes interdisciplinarity and multi-stakeholders foresight dialogues to identify future challenges related to climate-induced and transboundary risks. Grounded in long-term resilience thinking, this approach engages diverse networks from civil society and the private sector and extends beyond national civil protection authorities, recognizing the vital role of the local governments in shaping sustainable risk-informed futures. We remain committed to fostering regional collaboration, future-oriented governments, and transformative innovation that prioritize the well-being of future generations in Southeastern Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative from DPPIC. May I now invite the distinguished representative from Economic Commission for Europe.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, I'm honored to join this important discussion and highlight how international legal and policy instruments hosted by the UN Economic Commission for Europe contribute to improved disaster preparedness, increasingly relying on strategic foresight. First, the UNESC Industrial Accidents Convention helps nations prevent, prepare for, and respond to industrial accidents, including those with transboundary effects. In Central Asia's Sirdarya River Basin, for example, UNESC brought together 4 riparian countries to map tailing management facilities and to assess, for the first time, risks of accidental water pollution across borders. The new workstream, the Industrial Accident of Energy Transition under the Convention, harnesses strategic foresight to manage new disaster risks linked with the expected increase in critical energy transition material extraction. Second, the UNESC Water Convention supports flood and drought risk reduction in shared basins. For example, in the Dniester River Basin, shared by Moldova and Ukraine, UNESC helped develop a joint climate change adaptation strategy, including a strong foresight element with climate scenarios underpinning a shared early warning system for floods and droughts. Third, UNESC Statistics Division helps countries improve population projections, including at local level, essential for targeting preparedness efforts, particularly as the proportion of older persons rises. Strategic foresight must account for aging populations to ensure no one is left behind in disaster preparedness and response. Fourth, UNESC's transport experts developed a novel stress test framework to evaluate the resilience of transport systems under climate extremes. By simulating disruptions, like a flood cutting a major railway line, this tool pinpoints infrastructure vulnerabilities and helps prioritize investments in stronger, smarter networks. Fifth, the UNESC Working Party on Land Administration elaborated scenarios to support strategic planning for land administration authorities. They consider the impacts of global megatrends, such as sector-specific drivers like cybersecurity, open data, AI, collaboration, sharing, and distributed solutions. These examples show that through strategic foresight, data, and innovation, we can reduce risks. The Sendai Framework challenges us to substantially reduce disaster risks by 2030. UNESC is fully committed to this goal, supporting the UN system efforts led by UNDRR. By working together, governments, international organizations, businesses, and communities, we can harness knowledge and shared expertise to protect lives and livelihoods. At UNESC, we are committed to this mission. Let us act together with the future in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished representative of UNEC. I now give the floor to the representative of Aware on Earth.
Thank you, chairs. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, dear friends. If the strategic foresight of the Sendai Framework aims to shape better tomorrows, then we must ask, who are these futures designed for? A future that is at the service of only a few is a vain future without a perspective. Young people must participate more in this effort without having to bear the burden of our inactions or mistakes. Indigenous knowledge must not be dominated by mainstream Western science, and nature, too often ignored, must have its place at the negotiating table. If these voices are not fully heard, our foresight will lack effectiveness, ambition, humility, and humanity. Today, we have more active mobile phones than human beings on the planet. Yet, we seem increasingly disconnected from a natural world that we often look at through satellite images or our screens. But nature is not virtual and often reminds us how vulnerable we remain to it. Consequently, prevention and adaptation must remain our priorities. Technological innovations such as AI or geoengineering, as ambitious as they are, also pose dangers in the event of misuse. We must remain vigilant in the face of such miracle solutions and moral hazards. Therefore, the principles of social, climate, and intergenerational justice must be at our heart of our strategies in order to avoid new Pyrrhic victories for future generations. Our next vision is to build resilience and reduce anxiety about our ability to understand and respond to existential threats by focusing on 3 key factors targeting 3 audiences: decision makers, civil society, and future generations. We inspire more effective, transparent, and representative global governance. We make existential risk more accessible and less anxiety-provoking through science, art, culture, and play. Finally, we report for future generations on the state of the planet today to better understand that the world of tomorrow will have be largely shaped by the decision we make in this inflection point in history and for the decades to come. I thank you.
Thank you, distinguished representative of Aware on Earth. I now give the floor to the representative of the Pacific community.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Nissan Bulavinaka and warm Pacific greetings. The Pacific community, SPC, plays a critical role in supporting our countries and territories to apply science and technology to address pressing challenges, both now and in the future. We have applied the foresight methodology to shape and co-create regional policies and key strategic frameworks, such as our own organizational strategic plan, and more importantly, the Pacific Regional 2050 strategy for Blue Pacific continent. At a practical level, and you will see this in booth 7 of the innovation platform, a 3D model of an atoll in the Marshall Islands is on display. As it relates to futures thinking, this model visualizes current and future risks of coastal inundation to communities, infrastructure, and the atoll's largest groundwater lens, a vital area for lives and livelihoods. By illustrating the potential impacts of sea level rise, the model has sparked critical discussions about protecting coastlines and groundwater and the implications of local livelihoods. Yet the conversation extends beyond science alone. Early engagement with communities is essential, including understanding culturally significant sites and local coping mechanisms, and ensuring that risk reduction measures are appropriate and socially acceptable. These models have already informed decisions regarding coastal protection, early warning, and groundwater management. The Marshall Islands has also used these tools to support national planning through their National Adaptation Plan, and at the global level, its submission to the International Court of Justice last year. Digital Earth Pacific is another powerful tool, transforming decades of satellite data into actionable insights. Viewing local landscapes and changes, such as coastal erosion or land loss, can prompt meaningful conversations and personal reflection. Despite these advances, many of our countries continue to face challenges related to limited digital infrastructure and fragmented data systems. To address this, SPC provides access to regional platforms, capacity development, and open access tools, empowering governments to make informed, science-based decisions. As a final example, countries are increasingly concerned about intangible losses, including cultural identity, traditional ways of life, and natural resources. Tuvalu has taken steps to address this in identifying current and future risks to physical, natural, and cultural assets, ensuring traditional knowledge is integrated into national strategies. Resilience is ultimately about people. Those who carry knowledge, I thank you for your time.
Many thanks, distinguished representative of the Pacific community. And I would now like to give the floor to the representative of Habitat for Humanity International.
Thank you. Thank you to the UNDRR for organizing the Global Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction. Habitat for Humanity International reaffirms its wavering commitment to the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. Aligned with the theme, Every Day Counts, Act for Resilience Today, we recognize the urgent need for a course correction in the achieving of the goals of the Sendai Framework. Now more than ever, we must act collectively to strengthen resilience and address the escalating disaster and climate risks, especially in the housing sector that we work. The Global Platform 2025 arrives at a critical moment. The world is facing the intensifying impact of disasters driven by the rapidly worsening climate crisis. From heat waves to floods and cyclones, the frequency and severity of these events continue to rise. At the same time, the international community is contending with a decline in foreign assistance and constrained development finance. These dual challenges threaten to stall or even reverse progress toward resilience and sustainable development. Habitat for Humanity's vision of a world where everyone has a decent place to live is increasingly tested by these conditions. Inadequate and poorly located housing places millions at greater risk, especially in informal settlements across the global south, where hazard exposure is high and recovery capacity is limited. According to the World Bank's 2024 report, 1.2 billion people globally are at risk of losing or damaging their homes due to intensifying climate hazards. This is not a distant threat. It is an unfolding crisis. To confront this, Habitat for Humanity has adopted its 50 for 50 strategy, which aims to support 50 million people to access improved housing solutions by 2050. Disaster risk reduction and resilience are at the heart of this strategy because safe, secure, and climate-resilient housing is fundamental to protecting lives and livelihoods. Building upon our pledges to relevant global agendas, Habitat for Humanity reinforces its commitment to placing humanity at the center of our work. Furthermore, we believe that safe, affordable, and resilient housing and the development of risk-informed urban settlements are key to the reduction of climate and disaster risk. And for that, we follow the principles of intentional building back better, prioritizing on-site reconstruction, and promoting community-driven processes. Habitat for Humanity calls on UN agencies, multilateral financing institutions, governments at all levels, and housing actors to
Thank you, distinguished representative from Habitat for Humanity. You can, of course, submit your full statement to the Secretariat. I would now like to go back to the virtual intervention of Islamic Relief Bangladesh in the hope that this time technology is with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Bangladesh consistently demonstrates its innovation to stay resilient amid the dynamic vulnerabilities of multidimensional disaster risk. The stakeholders collaborate closely with the government to encourage public participation in disaster preparedness. We need an enabling environment to implement the policies and collectivize the at-risk people to bring them the most plausible solutions. The locally led risk financing mechanism piloted by Islamic Relief Bangladesh is gaining momentum with vulnerable communities. Addressing multidimensional poverty in a resilient way has also gained popularity among the targeted individuals, particularly women, persons with disability, the elderly, children, internally displaced people, and ethnic communities. Policy support will be required to institutionalize the initiative. In 2024, IRB served more than 800,000 people in Bangladesh. We need to enhance and combine investments from multiple sources, such as humanitarian aid, DRR, GCF, and adaptation funds, to facilitate a coordinated initiative in multi-hazard scenario, enabling at-risk communities to overcome resource scarcity for resilience building and minimizing loss and damage. IRB has started to create a data ecosystem that engages at-risk communities to bring control to data to the communities. In this case, initiatives have been taken to engage young people in innovation and maximize the use of artificial intelligence and other technologies to realize the demographic dividend. Islamic Relief Bangladesh supports creating green business model to promote nature-based solutions and restoration of conservation biodiversity as an initiative to address disaster preparedness requirements while ensuring livelihoods and protecting nature, considering future scenarios. State support is necessary to maximize the disaster impact assessment framework and tools in community-level resilience initiatives. We are advocating for a common alert protocol to facilitate all this process at community level. And we feel that All this together will bring resilient community in place. Jazakallah khairan. Good day. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, distinguished representative from Islamic Relief Bangladesh. Let me now give the floor to the Center for the Study of Existential Risks of the University of Cambridge.
Thank you. In recent years, we've witnessed a global pandemic claim millions of lives, accelerating climate change reshape our planet, revolutionary technologies emerge at breakneck speed, and rising tensions threaten global stability. What once seemed like distant, implausible scenarios now unfold daily. The UN's Pact for the Future opens with these sobering words. We're at a time of profound global transformation. We are confronted by rising catastrophic and existential risks, many caused by the choices we make. I draw your attention to the terms global catastrophic and existential risks. At the Center for the Study of Existential Risk at the University of Cambridge, we define these threats clearly. Global catastrophic risks threaten over 10% of humanity, while existential risks could end civilization itself. The question is not whether we'll face these risks, but whether we'll be prepared when they arrive. Leveraging the potential for strategic foresight is a critical step for preparing for such risks. But traditional approaches are not enough. We need innovation, creative methods that make foresight usable by all, transcend language barriers, and engage diverse voices in imagining our collective future. We have pioneered two transformative approaches, participatory storytelling and role-playing simulations. Through collaborative storytelling, we create rich narratives of possible futures, revealing patterns and trends across scenarios. Through immersive role-playing, participants embody risks and experience consequences firsthand, learning through lived simulation rather than abstract analysis. These methods have successfully mapped biotechnology governance futures, identified systemic risk solutions, and explored AI disruptions. They are able to harness human creativity and intrinsic motivations, turning the daunting task of futures planning into an engaging collaborative process. But creating scenarios is only the beginning. The critical failure lies in translating foresight into impact. Often, the insights from such exercises remain neglected in national and international policymaking. To bridge this gap, we recommend three critical steps. First, co-design exercises with policymakers from the start. When those that must implement change help create the scenarios, they own the solutions. Second, make foresight sustained, not episodic. For example, repetitions of our biosecurity horizon scans allow us to monitor trends over time, enabling for more robust risk management. Third, radically expand participation, include not just decision makers, but the communities most at risk. Remember, what seems on the horizon to some is already somebody else's present reality. These steps sound simple, but changing how we make decisions requires commitment. It requires us to confront multiple potential futures when it's easier to focus on one. It requires us to be proactive instead of reactive, and it requires us to slow down in order to speed up progress towards the goals of the Sendai Framework. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished representative of the CSER University of Cambridge. And I would now like to give the floor to the Disaster Competence Network of Austria.
Thank you, chairs, excellencies, dear colleagues. As Disaster Competence Network Austria, we work at the interface of science, policy, and practice to strengthen disaster resilience through knowledge transfer, applied research, and foresight-driven collaboration. Our mission is to ensure that innovation in DRR is not only developed, but implemented, institutionalized, and sustained. So in the face of growing complexity and systemic risk, strategic foresight is a crucial instrument for shaping resilient futures. One compelling example I want to share comes from Austria, where we conducted a national-level command post exercise with first responders. This exercise projected standard emergency operation scenarios of today into the year 2020-40 and beyond, using three future scenarios: vegetation fires, urban structure fires, and complex technical rescue operations. Participants from across emergency services, civil protection and public administration were asked to explore what the fire service must be capable of in the future. Discussions were structured along 5 key development trajectories of an organization such as first responder organizations. Personnel, what skills and workforce structures will be needed, training and education, how must curricula and methodologies evolve, organization, law and infrastructure, what legal frameworks and facilities are required, technology and tactics, how will equipment and operational concepts need to change. This foresight exercise did more than just raise awareness. It directly informed investment planning and national capability development strategy. It is a practical demonstration of how we can use strategic foresight to not just imagine the future, but to actively prepare for it. However, and this is critical, we must do more than just innovate. Across the globe, we see outstanding pilot projects, early warning systems, AI-driven risk modeling, community resilience platforms, and furthermore. But far too many remain projects, never becoming systems. So we must ensure that the sustainability and institutional uptake of these innovations take place. Let us not simply celebrate breakthroughs at their launch, but work to secure their application, integration, and long-term benefit to the communities they are meant to serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished representative of the Disaster Competence Network Austria. We now have another virtual intervention from the United Cities and Local Governments. The floor is yours.
Distinguished delegates, the Global Task Force of Local and Regional Government is facilitated by UCLG, United Cities and Local Government, and brings together the constituency of local and regional governments and elevates their voice, calling for a stronger position for local and regional government in the decision-making tables. This includes, of course, the future of resilience and the response to crisis. Local and regional leaders are the first responder when disaster strikes, yet they are frequently overlooked in multi-level governance framework and lack adequate financial and institutional support. The outcomes of the global platform must reflect an enhanced role for our constituency, particularly in monitoring processes. Local and regional government manage essential services, not only waste, transport and water, but also schools, health centers, sports facility and cultural spaces. They are deeply embedded in the daily life of our communities. So first, the application of technology has advanced in the global north and south. Local government are increasingly collecting disaggregated data, often to the neighborhood level. So co-creating risk data with communities not only enhancing accuracy, it builds trust and ownership. This goes beyond GIS and digital twins. When oversight tools are locally owned and integrated with public services, they can be sustained and updated and be put on use for developing stronger and fairer decision-making. Second, emergency provide opportunities for innovative leadership and unconventional solutions. We recognize that humanitarian actors sometimes face challenges working with local governments, but local government teams remain on the ground. The more they are involved, the more sustainable the impact of any intervention will be. Third, since 2015, we have supported the implementation of Risk Reduction Target E in thousands of local government, with a special focus on protecting the urban poor, incorporating gender, disability, cultural consideration into planning and service delivery. We are involving community in early warning, evacuation and recovery is essential. Disaster risk reduction begins and ends at local level. These approaches shape how we plan to mitigate risk, not just how we respond to it. Empowering and resourcing local leaders is not just good policy, it is a democratic imperative. Thank you very much.
Many thanks to the distinguished representative of UCLG, also for your brief and clear remarks. The floor now goes to the Italian Institute for Environmental Protection and Research, ISPRA.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates and speakers, my name is Saverio Romeo. a geologist from Geological Survey of Italy, that is a department of ISPRA, and it's a great honor to attend this plenary session focused on transformative approaches to long-term resilience. On this topic, our institute works daily to support the transition towards a more sustainable and safe future, always grounded in science. In a country like Italy, with a long tradition in data collection, as shown by recognized Centennial Meteorological Station, active since before 18th century, and landslide records dating back to 12th century, innovation remains both a challenge and a necessity. I will briefly present 3 examples of how we are planning innovation and emerging technologies, particularly in the prevention and mitigation stages, and focused on hydrometeorological hazards. The first example is the GigaSquare project, that means gigapixel imaging for geohazard assessment and awareness, developed under the fellowship program funded by CDRI, the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. The project explores the potential of ultra-high definition digital imaging as low-cost, user-friendly tool for geohazard surveys. It allows accurate spatial data collection, integrating geological features to support digital twin models. Tested in the field, it offers new capability for assessing geohazards. The second example is the HydroGeo web platform, recently developed to provide national scale information on landslide and floods. It is an open data, open source, and multilingual web application that allows users, even via smartphone, to view, query, download, and share data and maps, and produce reports. The platform, which integrates 3D viewer and storytelling tools, includes the Italian landslide inventory, with over 600,000 events, landslide and floods hazard maps and risk indicators, and the national database of landslide in situ monitoring system. The third example is the RENDIS, which means Repertory of Mitigation Measures for National Soil Protection, a database that gathers information on structural measures implemented against floods and landslide. It offers a constantly updated view of project and funding allocation. The system supports monitoring and planning and the development of new environmental indicators for natural hazard reporting. So in conclusion, we believe that only through the rational use of technological tools can we accelerate disaster risk reduction for future generations. This is particularly demanding in the public sector, but with smart and resource use, it is achievable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, distinguished representative of ISPRA. It is indeed easier to pronounce like this. So the floor now goes to the representative of UNESCO.
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues. My name is Carlos Uribe. I'm part of the disaster risk reduction team in UNESCO, and we are glad to take part in this important global platform and renew our commitment for the implementation of the Sendai Framework for disaster risk reduction. Every year, millions of people are affected by natural hazards. Over 800 million of children live in areas at high risk of earthquakes, floods, cyclones, or other threats. And at the same time, 250 million of children and youth are still out of school, with a global progress improving this by only 1% in the last decade, according to the UNESCO 2024 Global Education Monitoring Report. These figures are a clear call to action. UNESCO is proud to stand alongside with partners in championing on the vital role of creating safe and resilient society. We actively support actions to mainstream innovative technologies for school safety, early warning systems, nature-based solutions, and climate action across the whole UNESCO mandate. We firmly believe that education, science, and culture must be at the heart of disaster risk reduction. UNESCO provides clear guidance, practical tools, and scalable solutions to help ministries of education, national disaster management authorities, and local stakeholders to strengthen school safety, policies, and implementation, from the design of the national strategies to the construction of safe schools. We are implementing the comprehensive Safe School Framework that supports tangible improvements on the ground. At UNESCO, across our various sectors, we are committed to strengthening the resilience of societies. Through our specialized expertise, we are working hand in hand with governments to make education systems greener and more prepared to face the growing risk of climate change and natural hazards. At the heart of these efforts are teachers and students, which are central to building resilience. We invest in training and curricula to promote green skills and emergency preparedness, and call on partners to support resilient and sustainable education systems. As we respond to today's crisis, we must also prepare for the future by building safe and sustainable education facilities, restoring essential learning, providing psychological support, and ensuring that every school is inclusive, safe, and prepared to face the climate.
Many thanks, distinguished representative of UNESCO. The floor now goes to Geohazards International. They will join us virtually.
Hari Kumar, representing Geohazards International, a non-profit organization working with vulnerable communities across the world. And I'd like to reflect on what strategic foresight looks like in our line of work. There's a sentence in the concept note that resonates with me, that the past can no longer be seen as the only guide to the future. This is especially true in disaster risk reduction. When the risk is invisible, like a major earthquake that has not yet struck, a purely backward-looking approach fails us. At Geohazards, we have been working with governments across the world, and we have worked on disaster scenarios that help decision makers understand their risk, its causative factors, and how they can reduce the risk. For example, we developed an earthquake scenario for Aizawl, a city of 400,000 people, highly vulnerable to earthquakes and landslides, with support from local partners. This helped the communities and their leaders understand plausible futures. Some of them are devastating, and to motivate bold mitigative action through long-term resilience plans. Even while working with CRO, WHO, and on hospital assessment, there are moments when we help decision makers, we can see their eyes pop open when they realize the risk, and then taking them forward, helping them in investing in planning. I think of scenarios as vision correcting lenses. As DRR professionals, we are like opticians. We help leaders see the world in their full picture, their risks, their vulnerabilities, but also their capacity to change course. We have seen firsthand how a well-developed, scientifically grounded scenario that speaks to the local context can open a leader's eyes more powerfully than any technical report ever can. Strategic foresight, in our experience, is not about prediction. It is about preparing decision makers to navigate uncertainty and to choose the preferred future than the plausible future. It's about building a bridge from the present to future generations they serve. And this is where I would like to echo SRSG Kamal Kishore sir's call the other day to focus on working for the safety of children and youth. But for this, it is important that we prepare today's leaders with a better vision, a vision where their risk can be overcome. Strategic foresight isn't just a tool, it's a responsibility. We must align innovation with local needs and help leaders make choices, not based on yesterday's storms, but on the storms that are yet to come. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, distinguished representative of Geohazards, for these reflections. The floor now goes to Yakum Emergency Unit.
Dear Co-Chair, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, esteemed colleagues, My name is Jessica Novia. At Yakum Emergency Unit in Indonesia, we have applied the principles of strategic foresight by investing in community-led innovation to address long-term climate and disaster risk in vulnerable areas. Through our community-led innovation partnership, we support local communities to anticipate risks, co-design solutions, and lead locally rooted actions. This initiative was driven by our recognition that community knowledge, if supported with critical thinking and genuine partnerships, can guide resilience pathways that are adaptive and intergenerational. One key area where we see great potential in using technology to advance the Sendai Framework is community-led early warning systems and disaster education, including the integration of traditional tools with digital alert platforms. Through the initiative, our communities as local innovators have developed inclusive, locally available tech-enabled solutions, such as disaster education games for children with disabilities, mobile public kitchen, and smart mist irrigation to mitigate drought, digital platform to connecting people with HIV/AIDS to access information to get their medication during disaster events, where many health systems also collapsed, and locally led flood early warning signs and signs marking on the resident's house, which enabling the volunteer system to work effective. These innovations are designed and led by youth, women, people with disabilities, older people, locally, inclusively by the most at-risk communities. To foster innovation in disaster risk reduction, we believe these are the enabling factors. First, recognition of local leadership and meaningful involvement of most at-risk communities. Second, flexible funding mechanisms that allow communities to experiment and adapt. Third, capacity strengthening through trainings and mentorings in increasing the technical knowledge and confidence of the communities. Fourth, equitable partnerships between local actors and technical stakeholders, such as academia, private sectors, media, and government to bind it in the policies regulations to scaling grassroots solutions as valid contributions to national and global DRR strategies. Thank you.
Many thanks, distinguished representative of Yakum Emergency Unit. I would now like to give the floor to the Center for Development and Disaster Management, Nepal.
Honorable chairs, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, what kind of world are we leaving to future generations if we don't change ourselves first? I'm Vivek Karel from Nepal, Program Director at Center for Development and Disaster Management, CDM Nepal, a civil society organization working in one of the most climate vulnerable belts, the Tarai and the hills. I'm honored to share a grassroots perspective where children, youth, women, and indigenous groups live with disaster risk every day. Nepal, home to over 6,000 rivers and majestic Himalayas, emits less than 0.1% global emissions, yet ranks among the most climate vulnerable nations. From 2018 to 2024, over 32,000 incidents claimed the thousands of fatalities and damages exceeding $200 million. Disasters are not isolated events. They stem from a deeper root cause, climate change. The question now is not just how we respond, but how we anticipate, adapt, and act. At CDM Nepal, we embed strategic foresight into local resilience through our community resilience program supported by measurer and local governments, empower communities to define their own adaptation pathways. We do this by co-developing disaster and climate resilience plans, green job strategies, and water use master plans. A green school framework empowers child eco-clubs in public schools. Students plant trees, manage waste, lead climate dialogues, and mobilize local funds for green initiatives. Students don't just learn, they nurture the school, the earth, and they hope for a better future. We also work closely with youth-led networks and green entrepreneurs, empowering them through campaigns like Heal the Environment, Love the Planet. We humanize data by integrating flood risk with social registries and localizing BIPAD portal, a national disaster information management system. A proud shift has been decentralized financing, enabling local governments to allocate DRR and emergency funds, not as charity, but as investment in their own people. By promoting green entrepreneurship, we transform local ideas into nature-based solutions, restoring ecosystems, generating jobs, and enhancing resilience. What we are working is simple. Foresight plus innovation plus local leadership is equal to real change. Though our emissions are small, our approach offers a local model for global resilience. Less than 5 years down the line of Sendai Framework, let's ensure innovation and inclusive governance with children and youths leading the way. From the hills of Nepal to the global platform, the path of resilience must be locally rooted and globally supported. The future depends on the choices we make today. And as we act, may we each ask ourselves, am I doing the right thing for our communities, the nation, and for our shared planet? Thank you. Namaste.
Many thanks, distinguished representative of CDM Nepal. Let me now give the floor to the representative of Texas Tech University.
Excellencies, colleagues, and citizens of planet Earth, beyond grateful to the UNDRR and the Swiss government for the global platform. I'm Professor Ting Ling, Director of Multi-Hazard Sustainability Hazards from Earthquake to Climate Science and Engineering. Last year, the UN General Assembly put sea level rise front and center. Many countries, from Japan to Costa Rica, voiced their concerns. I hear you. From Pacific to Atlantic. That is exactly what keeps me up at night all those years. Back in 2009, I went to my first UN conference, COP15, with Stanford Professor Steve Schneider, inspired by my academic grandfather, Professor Alan Cornell, who started the field of probabilistic seismic hazard analysis, PSHA. I started probabilistic sea level rise hazard analysis, PSLRHA, empowered by human and artificial intelligence, high-performance computing, and virtual reality. Professor Cornell's strategic foresight portrays many potential futures probabilistically via aleatory and epistemic uncertainty. I'd like to do the same for sea level rise. From global hazard maps to local hazard curves, partnering with all of you here towards the most desirable future. I'm particularly excited to interface with our siblings, global tsunami model and global earthquake model. Many thanks, Helen, Secretary General. From short-term multi-hazards to long-term resilience planning for future generations. Last week, the launch of the Global Assessment Report made a very strong case for every head of state, every CEO, and every decision maker to act and invest for a better future. Global sea level is exacerbating coastal flooding and affecting communities around the world. Right here, right now, I would love to meet as many of you as possible to connect with the best minds, such as the UN Platform for Space-Based Information for Disaster Management and Emergency Response, UN SPIDER, to address sea level rise, a global priority. Pioneers and peers, thank you for all you do to make our world a better place. Just like Professor Cornell's half a century of life-saving in earthquakes, I'm ready for the next half a century to save as many as possible from sea level rise. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished representative from Texas Tech University. And let me now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Somalia.
Good morning. Today we are gathering to address a pressing issue in Somalia, the need for harness and strategic foreseeing and involvement to calculate disaster risk reduction DRR for future generation. In Somalia, where fragile and conflict intense with the climate-related hazards, strategic foreseeing, it is crucial. by anticipating the challenges posed by the droughts, floods, and political instability, we can better prepare our communities for uncertain ahead. This proactive approach enables us to identify high-risk areas, develop target innovation, and protect vulnerable population. As Somali Disaster Management Agency, SODMA, innovation is a key enhance our DRR effort in Somalia. Leveraging technology such as mobile communication, remote sensing, and data analysis can significantly improve our early warning system. For instance, SMS alert can reach remote communities quickly, promote timely, inform about impending disasters. Additionally, community-based mobile app can facilitate local data collection, empowering residents to actively participate in risk assessment. To maximize the potential of strategic foreseen and innovation, collaboration is essential. We must engage a wider range of stakeholders, including government agencies, NGOs, private sector, partners, and local communities. By fostering this partnership, we can share resources and experiences, ensuring a comprehensive approach to disaster risk management. It is vital that we involve young generation in innovation, education program, and promote awareness, disaster, and resilience strategy can empower young to take active role by encouraging this knowledge and skill needed face challenges. We build more. In conclusion, a harness strategic foreseen involved to disaster risk reduction in Somalia. Let come anticipate and challenge challenges in embracing new technology and collaboration across.
Thank you, distinguished representative of Somalia. And well, like in the previous days, we don't control the automatic timer, which cuts off after 3 minutes. So apologies for that. Complete statements can be handed in to the Secretariat. Let me now give the floor to the representative of ICANN, who will join us virtually.
I hope you can hear me. Excellency, distinguished delegates, colleagues, I speak for Arise Egypt and my enterprise ICANN. Arise Egypt is a young and still maturing private sector alliance that is eager to become a full partner in delivering the Sendai Framework. Our businesses, large, small, and medium, already feel the cost of climate-fueled shocks. Yet, our organizational capacity is only now taking shape. We therefore, offer 3 messages: progress made, support needed, and commitment offered, all grounded in public-private people approach. We totally believe in multi-stakeholder approach. Early steps are on the path of maturity. Our growing participation over the last year, we have begun sending representatives to regional platforms and national DRR forums to widen cooperation and learn from peers. But we still need mentoring support to sustain that engagement. Priority sector outreach. We are tailoring awareness drives for Egypt 5 economic mainstay: urban development, infrastructure, tourism, agriculture, and transport. So that risk is factored into every investment discussion. Third, academic collaboration. We start this pilot project with universities to design low-cost local technologies for early warning. Seed funding and technical guidance will help us move from prototype to scale. We have partnering with government on Sendai implementation. Our volunteer commitment places P as its core. Quarterly meeting with the cabinet DRR focal points will enable us to produce a responsibility matrix that clarifies who does what in national priority plans and awareness campaigns. We also aim to convene civil society, specialized international institutions, and all forms of media so that Sendai messaging reach every citizen and SME. What we need is capacity building, startup incentives, dedicated coordination help. Our near-term pledges, we tend to support Egyptian private sector risk roadmap within the coming 12 months, finalize the responsibility matrix, and act on one sector-specific DRR conference.
Thank you, distinguished representative of ICANN Arise Egypt. The floor is now for Guatemala Foundation Huayru Commission. Please.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, Excellencies, distinguished co-chair and distinguished delegates that are with us today. My name is Mate Rodriguez Blandon. I represent the foundation, the Guatemalan Foundation Inter-Green Commission Huayru. Is a world movement of base women that support group of women within 38 countries and leaders and transformative agenda for the resilience, inclusive resilience and defense of gender. This commission also convokes a platform for resilience, representing the local communities in mechanism stakeholders. We have been acting since the beginning in 2009 at the global platform, and we have constructed a network of experts based in the community with base women in the whole global south. The question that I'm going to reach today is if I will be able to share a case of a political decision on a critical inversion that my organization has realized using the strategic perspective of my organization. And we only can advance through the established societies and through the base groups, indigenous ladies, women that have authority at a local, national and regional level, and civil protection organisms. The protection is a national coordinator, CORRED, and the Center for the Prevention of Central America and Dominican Republic, CEPREDENAC. We value the ancestral and traditional knowledge of the different communities for an early warning system, preparation, implementation, and adaptation, local adaptation, as an aggregate that has been incorporated to the different knowledge, scientifics, and so on. UNDRR has been working in different processes that has improved the leadership of the women, being adapted to the different manners in which they are, and in the different associations with the only focus of to have a power in the different national and international politics and regional politics. We have an intention and we have a mechanism with this resilient, and in this mechanism the women recognize that they can be the leadership of the risk, and within 20 years of experience today we can say that all society with a local base group of ladies will be innovative and will be perfect. Thank you very much. Distinguido.
Muchas gracias. Let me now give the floor to the representative of Arise Philippines.
Good day to everyone. Arise Philippines, the private sector alliance for resilient societies, highlights its pivotal role in strengthening national resilience and economic stability. Our operational framework, inclusive with the private sector partners, with the government, academia, local communities, and other stakeholders, to bring forth focused thinking, strategic progression of DRR. We commit to providing effective disaster risk management strategies using science-based risk assessment tools, anticipate and respond to emerging threats, promote ICS trainings to ensure alignment of efforts of the public and private sectors in DRR operations, accessible education and training platforms focus on building climate analytics and crisis leadership skills into school curricula and using interactive mobile tools to engage communities. Adaptive urban risk reduction and resilience innovations emphasize nature-based solutions, smart cities, and resilient transport, sharing best practices. Supporting small and medium enterprises includes business continuity planning, hands-on CPR mentorship programs, and micro-resilience initiatives, mainstreaming of insurance to promote for faster recovery. And lastly, facilitating resilient infrastructure planning by leveraging information technology monitoring and adaptable building standards to promote long-term benefits. In all this, we call multiple sectors and levels of governance to embrace anticipatory thinking and innovation to empower MSMEs, youth, and communities as active agents on disaster risk reduction, support multi-sectoral partnerships by equipping people with knowledge, skills, and platforms to anticipate, prepare for, and respond to disasters and climate change. Arise Philippines stands for future-proofing generations with science-driven resilience and sustainability. We rally all private sector members to work together to build communities that are safe, secure, and thriving in today's world. Thank you.
Many thanks, distinguished representative of Arise Philippines.
It is now my pleasure to give the floor to the representative of the Canary Innovation Limited.
Thank you. What if there was a way to give targeted and tailored action-based warnings to individual people in the future? I want you to imagine that it is 2030. You're sitting in your kitchen and you receive a warning on your mobile device that tells you that in 3 days' time, a cyclone is going to hit your area. It says that the resulting flooding will cut off the road to your house, isolating your family for a week. It suggests a shopping list for food supplies that it knows you're running low on, including for your cat and children. It provides advice on how to prepare your weatherboard house for a storm and how you can store water. Which agency sent this warning? Can it be trusted? How did it know that you have a cat and children? Did your elderly neighbour get the same warning at the same time? How could these tailored warnings possibly be produced? Digital footprints could feed into warning systems. Tech giants have a lot of our data already, including on our health and demographics. From our online search history, our purchases, online photos, our smart devices, the construction of our houses, our movements, and our plans. They could use artificial intelligence techniques to process that data and overlay it with the hazard forecast to know our individual risk levels for the coming storm. Tech giants could also use data from our purchase and search histories, vaccination records, and our mobile phone location data to determine our risk tolerance and therefore when we should be warned. Guidance advice would reflect our situations and be achievable. Large language models could then write the tailored warning in any language or format. This could be the future of warnings. But there are a lot of potential issues with this sort of approach, including biases, ethics, privacy concerns, commercial gain drivers, potential multiple unofficial warning sources, and trust. A future scenario such as this can help drive actions now towards developing appropriate public-private partnerships and regulations, ensuring everyone gets a warning, even if they don't have a smartphone. In a world that is tightening belts on budgets, yet climate-related hazards are becoming more severe, I implore governments to support social sciences and innovation that not only grows the economy, but safeguards our people. Together, we can create cost-effective solutions. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Cannery Innovation Limited. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard the last speaker of this meeting. I would like to thank all the speakers today. This session has invited all of us, governments, scientists, grassroots leaders, private sector, and youth, to think beyond the horizon. We owe it to future generations to act not only for today's resilience, but for the risk they will inherit. The decisions we make now must consider the long arc of risk, social, environmental, technological, and ensure that the systems we build today can pave the way for a more resilient future. I thank Elena and Mafalda once again for the word clouds that they have generated by listening to your collective interventions, which will serve as a unique creative records of our discussions today. Distinguished delegate, in accordance with the program of work, the closing ceremony will take place today at 4:45 p.m. in this amphitheater. MSP Plenary 4 is now concluded and the meeting is adjourned.